interview, he said, okay, Quentin, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think you did? And I said, I think I was probably did pretty well, probably a 7 or an 8. He said, yeah, you were too. I grew up in the ranks in HR at Newell Rubbermaid. I was there 15 years, 1 year in operations, and 14 in HR, and got to some pretty big divisional leadership role. I was the head of HR for the Rubbermaid consumer business unit and some other business units. But when I was reaching the 15-year mark, we had a CEO change and my position was pretty abruptly eliminated. So for the first time in 15 years, I found myself on the job search in the job market. And so I had the fortune of working with Challenger Gray Christmas in my transition. And so they helped me really prepare for that. And they assigned a coach to work with me. And so a guy named John Masterson flew in to Charlotte, met with me in uptown Charlotte in some office space. And after a few minutes of getting to know each other, John said, let's do an interview. Let's see what we learn from the interview, and then that'll set up our training for the rest of our time together. I said, okay, great. So for 30 minutes, he took me through an interview. And at the end of the interview, he said, okay, Quentin, on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think you did? And I said, I think I was probably did pretty well, probably a 7 or an 8. He said, yeah, you were too. I was a 2. He goes, oh yeah, we got a lot of work to do. And wow, in the moment, I was really embarrassed because I spent 14 years in HR roles. It's pretty big jobs, and interviewed hundreds of people and helped build some great teams. And it was very humbling. And he grounded me right away. And then we got to work, and he did a great job of helping me figure out how to tell my story and prepare for interviews. So it was great. Man, you talked about eating some humble pie. He said, I didn't even hesitate. No, you were too.
Do you think he was right?
Probably.
Or was it like 2 for effect, but really you were a 4 or a 5?
A little bit of that was for effect, but I think that's one thing to sit on the employer side of the table and conduct an interview. It's completely different to sit on the other side of the table and be interviewed. And I hadn't done that in a long time. And was nervous and not really concise with my message and how I wanted to market myself. And so from that standpoint, he was right. I have work to do to tighten all that up.
Nice. Where are you today?
Where am I today?
Yeah. Are you a 10 in terms of interviewing skill? Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've had to do it several times, but yeah, I would say maybe I really am a 7 or 8. I don't think I'm a 2.
Welcome to Quentin.
Thank you, Karen. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
I'm so happy to have you. Let's just jump right in. I want you to show off for me. Tell me about some career success you want to highlight.
Sure. I think so. I have a passion around leadership in general and professional development. I've been at this for a while, so I've seen organizations do it really well, building leaders for the future and maximizing leaders for today. And I've seen organizations not do it very well. I'd say the program I'm most proud of is what we call the Region Manager Development Program at Rollins. Rollins owns a family of brands around the world in the pest control and animal control industry. It's a global leader. And there are a lot of locations, and there's typically a regional structure where by the time you're a region manager in that business model, you have several different branches that report to you. You've got anywhere from let's call it a $10 million responsibility to a $60 million P&L responsibility. And you have 6 to 12 locations and several hundred people that are relying on your leadership skills. I joined Rollins in 2017, and the leadership development team was getting its head around how can we be in front of the growth that Rollins was having through organic growth, acquisition, and how can we proactively develop leaders for the future. I immediately jumped in with a succession plan methodology that had been successful in the past, and we married those two together and they did a great job of putting together the core curriculum for the program. What I was able to do was feed them competencies where we needed some help as we were proactively preparing folks for the future. And then I was also able to take the results of our detailed succession planning discussions among all of our brands, and we could identify every year who we thought the future leaders would be. And we used that process to develop roughly 20-person cohort starting in 2018 with the Reach Manager Development Program. And that program is still going today, and it's proving to be very successful. And I got to track the metrics on success rates for promotion. And the vast majority of the folks that came through that program, if they weren't region manager, they were well prepared when they became one and very successful. And at least one of those folks grew to even be a division president in the Orkin brand and is having great success today. And if they were already a region manager, maybe brand new, it really helped accelerate their ability to come up to speed and really make a difference quickly in that role. Very proud of that program.
That's incredible. So what metrics are you looking at other than what you just mentioned? What were your measures of success as you were taking people through the program? And then also specifically, how were you developing the skills? Let's talk skill building.
So we partnered, my team, the HR business partner team, partnered with the leadership development team to identify a set of about a dozen core competencies that we felt were really important for senior leadership. And so we built a program around those competencies. So in that business model, one of the things that people have to get used to is leading remotely. So when you're a branch manager, you've got your team, it's all in one location, all bases out of one location. But when you're a region manager, you have 10 or 12 of those, and they're spread out across the state or multiple states. And leading a team in person is not the same as leading a team that's remote, right? And so that was one of the things. Strategic thinking is you get into successively higher levels of responsibility, your scope and perspective needs to adjust and grow because you're looking at things from a much bigger perspective. So we had to work on the business acumen to run a region, 12 different businesses, and roll them all up and identify synergy and share best practices. It's a different ballgame from where they were one location. That's how we built the program. And then what we did is we just tracked results we had specific development plans for each member of the cohort. And obviously we tracked promotion rates and success. And that was really the single biggest thing. The other thing I would say that I haven't talked about is retention, right? So when you make that kind of investment, it's a year-long program, you want to hang on to your talent. If you're going to invest in them and help them grow and succeed, hopefully they'll stay in the company. And they did. Our retention rate for folks that participate in that program is very high.
So it was like very formalized, like we've identified you must go through this program. People couldn't opt out of it. I'm just curious.
No, you could opt out. Now, as I think back through the years, I'm not sure I remember. I don't think anybody opted out when given the invitation. Now, we did have a few folks opt out for personal reasons or things came up. We had one person got a significant injury and they just couldn't participate. So we had a little bit of that, but I can't remember anyone receiving a formal invitation saying I'm not interested.
Interesting. And I know this is going to sound weird and technical. Who is sending out these invitations? I ask because I have a hypothesis that when it's the right person saying, I believe in you, we see a future for you here, we want to invest in a year-long program. If it's the right person sending it, people get that much more excited, committed to it versus HR sending it where it feels generic, right?
Completely agree. What I did is I submitted a slate of potential participants to the business leaders. And then the business leaders made the final call on which ones would attend this year. And if somebody wasn't going to make that list for this year, we automatically put them on the list for next year. But it was the division president, the brand owner that would sit them down and say, hey, congratulations. We think very highly of you. We think you can run a region in the future, and we'd like you to participate in the Region Manager Development Program. And so word got out when people started to come through the program and folks were getting promoted and having success. Word got out quickly, and folks wanted to participate. They wanted to be in it. It was a badge of honor to be invited and have the opportunity to participate.
Especially when it's only 20 people a year, very competitive in that way. Oh, I
That's
love
right.
it.
No question.
I love it. Yeah. And I love, to me, we've asked this question on the podcast many times. And to me, the way I know when something is truly successful is when it's a program that's still running. It doesn't matter how many years the program still exists, you know, you did something right.
Yeah, no, that's right. They're doing a great job with the program today. And they do a great job on social media like LinkedIn as well, really promoting the program. And so I see all that and applaud at every opportunity I get. I'm super proud of it.
Oh, that's amazing. All right. Not to put a damper on your fun parade here, but let's pivot to where things did not go so well. Talk to me, walk me through it and walk me through the lessons learned.
Yeah, great. I'm actually going to stick at Rollins. I had a great run at Rollins, 6.5 years, learned a ton, got to work with a lot of great folks in the business world and HR. And so one of the ideas that we tried to implement at Rollins was what we call the centralized employee relations team. Okay. So each brand and division has its own HR team, and the employee relations responsibility really resides there. And those teams are big teams. And so I saw pretty quickly in my first year that those division HR directors and managers really had a high workload without a lot of support. And a large part of that was employee relations. So the thought was, hey, if we can put together a small but very skilled team that does that full time, if there's an employee concern, if there's a complaint, then we have a small team with highly skilled folks that can dig into that and do the legwork that it takes to investigate a complaint, document what happened, do the interviews, pull everything together, and then get back to the business so the business can make decisions based on investigations. That would help take some of the day-to-day burden off of the folks in the field, right? Which would allow them to do more in leadership development and organizational design and staffing critical positions and things like that. In my peer who is leading Total Rewards, Jay Vinton, great guy, and he's leading HR around today. He was familiar with that model. We both liked that model. And so we started to talk to the HR team about that model. And we got a lot of this from the HR team, from the field HR leaders. Okay, yeah, we can see how that might make our life a little bit better. And so we spent some time with the HR leaders mapping out, doing process mapping. How would this work? What's the interface between this team and the brand and the division team? And we built a business case that the executive team approved for us to move forward. And so we had an HR meeting, and we had an annual meeting in January each year. And so we had an HR meeting, went through it in detail. Here's how it's going to work. And here's the value add to the business. And all the HR folks were in the room, did this, and they said, okay, we're going to support it. No problem. And they left the room on a Friday, and by Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning, one of the division presidents in one of the bigger divisions called me up and to tell me that he had just found out about this centralized employee relations idea, and he thought it was the worst idea he'd ever heard of. And so that was red flag number one. And now we pushed forward. I educated him on what we were doing and why. We pushed forward and we hired someone into the role to lead that effort, small team, 2 people, 3 people. But we brought somebody in who'd done this before, right? And when that person was getting onboarded, I left the onboarding to the division and brand HR leaders. I let them introduce this person to their leader and talk about the process. That onboarding didn't go well. The leaders didn't understand what we were doing, why we were doing it. It was a big departure from what we'd done in the past, and they didn't see the value. And so in between those two events, we were pushing uphill from the beginning. And then when we really tried to get it implemented, we just never got the buy-in from the business that we needed to get. And so we ultimately had to fold it. And I think my big takeaways from are, number one, I should have done a better job working with the business leaders themselves on the vision, the idea, and I should have solicited their input, gotten their feedback, heard their concerns, and should have taken all that into account before pushing the business case. And I didn't do that. The other thing I should have done differently is I should have owned the onboarding. I should have done the onboarding with the business leaders, or should have participated. I shouldn't have just left it to the team to do. And I'm not saying the team did a bad job, but they were at a bit of a disadvantage. It was our idea. It was our brainchild. And yet we weren't there in the one-on-one meetings to explain what we were doing. We were doing it. So while I teed it up to executive leadership in advance, it was high level, brief, flyby. I shouldn't have done it that way. I should have been more proactive and really getting buy-in up front from the business leaders, then and in partnership with the HR team. We got the buy-in from the HR team mostly, but not completely. And then that ultimately backfired on us.
Do you think it was still a good idea looking back on it? Or you think it was just the execution that failed or the whole premise? I'm curious.
I think it's a good idea. I think I failed in execution, to be honest. I think had I done a better job up front, really soliciting the feedback and making adjustments, I think we could have made it work. And I think it could have been very successful. I didn't do that though, and I take full responsibility for that.
That makes sense. So my question is, moving forward, how have you taken the learnings and applied it elsewhere?
I really try to double down my efforts to, if there's a new idea or something that people haven't seen before, really spend time with them and understand their thoughts and their perspectives, their concerns, their challenges, and try to find a way. Is there a way that we can structure the idea or the initiative in a way that addresses their concerns? And really be true partnership in a senior HR role. That's what you are. One of your podcasts, I think the word that just came out talks about that, right? You're really a business partner first and you're a subject matter expert second. I agree with that. And that's really what I try to do now. I wish I could tell you I'm really great at it. I think I'm pretty good. Back to the 7 or 8 comment. I'm probably not at 9 or 10 at it, but I've learned from that. At the end of the day, we're here to support the business. We're here, HR, based on my experience, our role is to help leaders overcome challenges, overcome obstacles, and deliver results. And that's what it's all about. That starts with really understanding the business.
100%. And it's funny. I keep hearing it echoed over and over. And I think that's the difference between an outstanding HR leader and not so much. The second you can understand the business through and understand those challenges and then help address them, you are crucial to the business all of a sudden.
I completely agree with that.
All right. So last question. Now looking back 20 some odd years, what do you think are the most important skills that you think you should invest in as an HR leader from your perspective?
I'm going to dovetail off what we just talked about. So I got some great advice. When I joined Rollins, Henry Anthony was the retiring vice president of HR. Henry is still a friend and a mentor to me today. And what Henry told me at the time, I wish somebody had told me 15 years before that. And he basically said, Quentin, we like you a lot. We think your background's great. You're going to do great things here. There's really 2 things you need to focus on. Number 1, you need to learn our business. You need to learn what we do, how we do it, and why we do it that way, so you understand the full context of what you're walking into. Okay. Nobody expects you to come in here and change everything that we're doing. Okay. So number 1, learn the business. And that requires a good business acumen, Karen, right? So if you're going to operate at a CHRO, chief people officer level, you really have to understand the business. Your business acumen it needs to be great, because if you can't understand the business, then it's going to be very difficult for you to bring ideas and solutions to help the business achieve desired results. And so he was right on the money with learn the business. And the second thing he said was build relationships. He said, look, you're going to walk into a business model that has a bunch of different divisions and brands, and those people are the ones that are out driving revenue and growing our business. And you need to build relationships with them. You need to understand what the world looks like through their perspective. And he was 100% for HR leaders, or any leader really, that takes the time to really learn the business and build those relationships. It sets you up for success. What he told me was, once you do those two things, you'll be able to bring ideas. You'll have a lot of support. You'll be able to make a difference. And the next thing I would say is, in HR, we're a customer service provider. That's what we do. We're a service provider. So the standard in customer service is excellence. You got to take care of your customers. That means you got to listen well. That means you got to be responsive. You got to communicate. You probably have to over communicate. You have to put your customers first. And sometimes when they're not happy, you can take it personally, and you got to learn to not take it personally. And one of my favorite words is perspective. The great HR leaders learn how to gain other people's perspectives. They learn how to sit in other people's shoes and really see the world from their perspective. And if you can do that and do it successfully, then it helps you when you're trying to help people work through challenging circumstances. And so I always think about that. It's customer service, being a service provider, taking that very seriously. Really, the last thing I would say for HR leaders is, don't be afraid to jump in and help out, even if it's not a traditional HR role. A good HR leader who really understands the business, has great relationships, will see a gap. And it's okay to jump in and try to help fill in the gap. Don't swim outside of your lane on purpose. Don't go try to do somebody else's job. But if you can go above and beyond to support and provide excellent service, even if it's outside the traditional scope of HR, it's okay. You can add a lot of value that way, and you can build a lot of credibility and earn a lot of trust if you do that right.
I love it. I think everyone has their sort of different path into HR. It's not like there's HR school, right? So I think you might have just encapsulated that would be like the best ad for why come to HR. If you're good at customer service, if you're good at listening and ready to roll up your sleeve, you found your calling. But it sounds like you certainly found yours. I want to thank you. This was wonderful. I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Thank you very much, Karen. Listen, Growth Space is truly this organization. Just glad to be a small part of it. And really appreciate you and all you do for Growth Space, and to get the word out on HR. HR is an incredible career path. It's an incredible opportunity to make a difference. And so I'm blessed that I've been able to have that opportunity over the last 20 some odd years. It's been great.